Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the massive chain reaction that's keeping our energy prices so stubbornly high. And, we're going to reveal exactly how a mounting national energy debt is quietly but directly impacting your personal bill. Let's just get right into it. Section 1, the winter price shock. All right, so we really need to start by looking at the sharp transition we're making right now. You've just come out of this sweltering summer where, let's be honest, energy usage was the absolute last thing on our minds, right? A cold shower actually sounded great, and you could dry your clothes outside in minutes. But that carefree season is officially over. The incoming October price rise brings a 4% increase for millions of households, and it's definitely sparking a renewed sense of urgency as a cold winter sets in. But wait, because that 4% bump, that's really just the beginning. The absolutely crucial point here is the striking number, 9%. That's the additional jump predicted by Cornwall Insight. They're a highly trusted consultancy whose forecasts basically set industry expectations. And they expect this 9% hike to hit us right at the absolute peak of winter in January, literally when households are relying on their heating the most. It's a heavy number, and it's going to land at the worst possible time for family finances. Okay, let's dive into this. To understand why this is happening, take a look at this forecast from EDF. They predict that bills will remain stubbornly high at their current level until at least the end of the decade. No way around it. This isn't just a temporary blip. We have to look at the ongoing volatility in the wholesale gas market, which is simply where your energy supplier buys the gas before selling it on to you. When global events like recent tensions in the Gulf region disrupt supply chains, the wholesale price spikes. And unfortunately, that distant global shock travels straight to your local personal bill. To really show you exactly why these prices are biting so hard, look at the typical dual fuel bill, which is just your standard household tariff for both gas and electricity. If we look at the start of 2021, right before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and compare it to where we are right now, we see a massive 70% spike. To put that into everyday terms, if you were paying £100 a month back in early 2021, you're now having to find £170 for the exact same amount of energy. It's a staggering jump that is fundamentally devastating normal household budgets. Section 2, the growing energy debt crisis. So these sustained sky-high prices haven't just stretched budgets to the breaking point. They've actively triggered this escalating national debt spiral that is completely rattling the energy sector. According to the industry body Energy UK, £600 is the extra amount a typical household is paying each and every year compared to pre-crisis levels. And for millions of people, finding an extra £600 out of thin air, it's simply impossible. It's forcing so many into a really difficult corner. And because of that intense £600 squeeze, inevitably, more and more people just can't pay their bills. When payments are missed, late fees and charges start to snowball, escalating things to a staggering degree. Total unpaid bills and charges, specifically for missed payments of a month or more, have reached an incredible $6 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. $6 billion. And the situation is only accelerating. Suppliers expect this unpaid debt to hit £7 billion by the end of the year. To put that into perspective, Ofgem, the UK's independent energy regulator, notes that unpaid debt of more than 3 months is at a record high right now. The average household currently in debt without a repayment plan actually owes more than a typical annual bill. Section 3. Why everyone pays the price. Now, I want to pause right here because this affects you directly. Even if you meticulously pay your energy bill on time every single month, you are still actively paying for this massive collective debt. And this brilliantly illustrates how covering others' unpaid debts already acts like a hidden tax, adding about £60 to the average annual bill right now. But as that national debt pool grows to £7 billion, the consultancy Baron Gay estimates this hidden cost could reach £100 per household by December. You are the one covering that shortfall. And the cost of covering that industry risk can actually be even higher depending on how you pay your bills. If you happen to be someone who pays your bill on demand every 3 months instead of a predictable monthly direct debit, you're typically paying an extra £150 a year. Yeah, the system charges a premium just to cover the greater industry risk of non-payment for that specific billing type. It's this systemic quirk that heavily penalizes folks who are usually already trying to tightly manage their cash flow month to month. Section 4. How consumers have adapted. Of course, people aren't just sitting by. Households everywhere have completely exhausted their everyday options, trying to combat these deeply embedded costs. We've seen some incredibly relatable human actions. Thermostats are being kept strictly lower, batch cooking is way more common to save oven time, and people even sought out community warm hubs in the winter, which fascinatingly turned into air-conditioned cold hubs during the hot summer. Because of all this active self-rationing, Ofgem officially lowered their typical consumption calculations down to 9,500 kilowatt hours of gas and 2,500 for electricity a year. That's a notable official drop in what's considered normal usage, which proves people are severely cutting back. Furthermore, millions have done their absolute bit by trying to lock in whatever stability they can find. 35% of bill payers have shifted onto fixed tariffs to protect themselves from future spikes. But we have to remember, vulnerable individuals, perhaps those who are older, have critical health conditions, or live in poorly insulated homes, they just don't have the luxury to cut back their energy use any further. They're at rock bottom, and they are still struggling. Section 5. The Government's Budget Dilemma. And this moves our narrative from consumer exhaustion to the intense political tightrope facing the new chancellor, John Healey, as pressure mounts to help those most in need. Charities and the energy industry really want to introduce a discounted tariff based on benefits and health data. Energy UK says this proposed targeted plan would cost £1.9 billion. Now, while that sounds like an enormous sum, it's actually just a fraction of the massive £40 billion commitment the government previously made to protect everyone's bills across the board after Russia invaded Ukraine. It's a proposed solution for sure, but it leads us directly to one unavoidable question. So who would pay? With Ofgem also putting a separate debt relief scheme on the table, the government finds itself with incredibly limited room for maneuver in the public finances to actually fund these much-needed initiatives. The funding options here are all highly sensitive political choices. They could raise taxes, borrow the money, cancel spending elsewhere, or just add that £1.9 billion onto everyone else's bills, which would obviously worsen that hidden tax we discussed earlier. And while ministers point out they're doing what they can, like the October VAT cut on electricity bills, that helpful little drop is unfortunately being entirely wiped out by an 8% rise in the price of wholesale gas. Section 6. The long-term fix? In the short term, the budget choices are incredibly tough. In the long term, though, both the government and Ofgem agree we need systemic shifts to reduce our reliance on volatile, internationally priced gas. This means absorbing the huge upfront cost of upgrading the UK's electricity network and introducing consumer solutions like plug-in solar panels. But building grand infrastructure, that takes a lot of time, which leaves us with this final thought for you to ponder today. How long can consumers carry the heavy burden of global gas volatility and this growing $7 billion debt mountain before these systemic long-term upgrades finally pay off? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it helped clear up exactly what's going on behind your energy bill.